Manny Pacquiao calls Errol Spence Jr. a turtle. Before I get into that, give it a thumbs up, hit the sub, hit the bell. You know what to do. And with that being said, let's get into the video. So, Manny Pacquiao said, Spence is who he's referring to. He is too slow. Spence is slower than Thurman, but it's going to be a good fight. That's his quote. Slower than Thurman, but it's going to be a good fight. So by him saying it's going to be a good fight, is he saying that he's looking at fighting him next? Because we know he wants to fight Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor has a fight coming up and Pacquiao hasn't fought in a while. So most people would say that not fighting in a while, like Pacquiao has, is a bad thing. But I feel like at his age, the extra rest can actually help an older fighter because that way he's not battering his body, beating down his body. He's getting the extra rest that's needed to recuperate. As you get older, you can't do the same things that you used to do when you were young, or so they say. But how do I feel about that? Is Errol Spence Jr. slower than Keith Thurman? I don't know. I really do not know. The thing about Spence is it's not so much his speed as it is his strength. He's got a lot of strength. He's got decent power. I wouldn't say he's this knockout killer that he was first made out to be, but he has decent power and he's very strong. Now, speed has been known to beat power and strength throughout the history of boxing. However, timing has been known to beat speed, and it comes down to, is Errol Spence Jr. good enough to time Manny Pacquiao and catch him? Now, when the fight first starts off, I don't know if he'll be able to stay on top of him like that. I would highly doubt it. I think the first couple of rounds, Manny will come out there all guns blazing and try to get as far as ahead on the scorecards as he can. However, we have seen Manny start to slow down in the second half of the fight. And that's the thing. If he starts to slow down against Errol Spence Jr., what is that going to be like? Because Errol Spence not like Keith Thurman. The Keith Thurman that Manny Pacquiao fought was a dude who didn't even look good in his fight prior to Manny Pacquiao. And he had been out for, what, a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in that ball range. And then he really gave up boxing during that time he was playing the flute. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. I think it makes for a very good fight. I would like to see Manny Pacquiao fight Bud Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. over Conor McGregor. But at the same time, if he does fight Conor McGregor, I don't hold it against him because it's a money fight. Mayweather did it. Why can't Pacquiao? Make as much money as you can, especially whenever you put as many years into it as Manny Pacquiao has. But if Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacquiao was to fight, I honestly cannot say 100% that Errol Spence Jr. beats him. Because we have seen Errol Spence have weakness against very mobile fighters who move. And, I mean, that was evident whenever he was fighting little Mikey. Mikey went into run mode, got on his bicycle. He actually ran. I don't like to say fighters run, but Mikey ran. He did everything he could to survive. And thing about Pacquiao is he's very quick on his feet and he's very mobile. And he attacks you from weird angles, which means he's not going to stand directly in front of you. He's going to be moving around you, hitting you. And being that Errol Spence Jr. looks very flat-footed, he might have some defensive struggles against that. Now, if they were to fight, who would I favor? I favor Manny Pacquiao early in the fight, but as it gets later and later and later in, I definitely favor Errol Spence Jr. Who do I think will win the fight? I don't know. To me, it's a 50-50. It all, to me, it comes down to how much. Because if Manny Pacquiao was young, I don't think Errol Spence Jr. even does anything to him. I think he's just a punching bag, and he dances around him. However, with Manny Pacquiao's age and seeing him slow down like I've seen him slow down, he's got to get ahead. He's got to get really far ahead, and I highly doubt he'll be able to knock down Errol Spence Jr. like he did Keith Thurman. I can say that about Errol Spence. He looks like he could take a punch because he gets hit a good bit, and I've never really seen him hurt. Now, I could be wrong. You can correct me in the comment section if I am wrong, but I've never really seen Errol Spence hurt. I've more or less seen him walk through punches to get off shots. So that's what I'm saying. He's very big, very strong. It's just, again, the mobility is what's going to cause him problems. And early in the fight, like I said, Pacquiao's got nothing but mobility. That's what he was known for. Angles and mobility as far as in-pocket fighting. So I think it makes for a very interesting fight. Manny Pacquiao has got to get ahead. He has got to win at least hands down the first 6 rounds. Because if he does it, I think the later half, Errol Spence is going to start to take control, kind of like you saw with ring rusty Keith Thurman. So I don't know. I don't know if Manny can beat him. I say it's a 50-50 fight, and it all comes down to how far ahead he can get ahead early. Because if he can't get ahead early, he's going to lose on points. I don't think Errol Spence is going to knock him out. It is a possibility. Manny's been knocked out before. But like Manny said, Errol Spence is too slow. I just don't think he's going to be able to hit Manny with that many clean shots to put him away unless it's late in the fight. Because I don't see Manny Pacquiao jumping in, dancing, showboating like he did against Marquez. And that 4th fight, getting sloppy and then just jumping into a punch. I don't think he'll do that against Errol Spence. Because in that fight, he was way ahead. He was way ahead of Marquez, and he was toying with him. It was the best man he looked against Marquez. And then he toyed with him too much and got caught. That's why he got knocked out. Not because he was defensively bad, deficient, none of that. He was doing great. It's just he started toying with him, and he paid the price. But again, to come back full circle to what I'm saying about this video is I like the fight. I think this is the best fight outside of Bud. Bud or Earl would be the best fight. But I'm not sure. See, Bud Crawford to me is a bad stylistic matchup for Manny Pacquiao. So again, I think Manny's got more of a shot at beating Errol Spence Jr. than he does Bud. People could argue with me in the comment section. Go ahead and do that. But I like this fight because at the end of the day, if these two guys fight, whoever wins is the man of the division. Some people will argue that Manny's still the man because he's been around for so long and he's got a belt. Others will argue that Errol Spence Jr. is the man because he's really the top dog, who most people believe. You'll have people like me who say that Bud's the man, but he doesn't have the 147 strength of resume to argue that fact against these two other guys. So the bottom line is this. At them two fight, that's the king of the welterweight division. Regardless how I feel about Bud, regardless if I think Bud can beat them or not, it's irrelevant. The bottom line is, if these two fight, whoever wins, he's the king. He runs the welterweight division, and if Bud wants to fight one of these two guys, if they beat each other, or one beats the other, then Bud needs to come to the table and just take whatever they give him. I'm sorry, I know people don't like to say that, but at this point, if they're not going to fight you, you need to take whatever they're going to give you. If they tell you a 30-70 split, take the 30-70 split. It is what it is. Might not like it, but hey, if you want to get them in the ring, you got to do what you got to do to get them in the ring. And then you'll make more money after you win, if you win. But again, to close on it, if Manny Pacquiao fights Conor McGregor, I understand it. I'm fine with that. But more or less, that's a retirement fight, in my opinion. Manny beat a guy who was once considered a top dog at welterweight, who was considered just as good as Errol Spence Jr., who many argued would have beat Errol Spence Jr. and Keith Thurman. So if Manny can beat Errol Spence Jr. and he can beat Bud Crawford, I don't know how you could argue with his legacy. I mean, that's going to really, I don't know, that might put him in the top 10 all-time great. 8 divisions, becomes undisputed, 40-plus years old. By the time he does it, 43, 44 years old. I don't know how you could argue that. He, in my opinion, that's a top 10 all-time great, period, on anybody's list, if he can become undisputed. So that's why I like the Errol Spence Jr. fight better than Conor McGregor. But again, if Manny's going to retire and he's only got one fight left, go for Conor, get your money and get out. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Thank y'all for listening.